Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about the fallout from the Gaza violence of last week now. A lot of violence to go around. That's the nature of the show. So obviously, many Palestinians lost their life. Now, what I have read is that Hamas is saying that a significant number of the people who died were either members of their organization or sympathetic to their organization, had some affiliation with it. And so before the break, we showed a video from Fox and Friends of Pete Hesgeth saying, if people died.
Literally
a picture
quote.
right there.
Like,
he said, meh.
Yeah.
So Ed Henry is saying, well, okay, we don't care about the members of Hamas that died, obviously, but can we acknowledge that some innocents died? Abby Huntsman says, well, humans are humans and humans matter. And he says, meh. And we can leave that up there for a little bit because here's my issue. Pete Hesgeth, that is what's killing America right now, I think. Like, it's not necessarily just the regular GOP voters, Trump supporters. It's that they want that figure, that vapid, ignorant, thick-necked idiot on TV to tell them it is totally okay to have an ever-increasing list of types of people that we do not have to respect as humans. And so it's not just members of Hamas that were shot or people who had some affiliation. Let's say we accept that if somebody says, I like Hamas, you can just gun them down anytime you want. That's probably not true. But let's say that's true. The actual civilians who are there, we don't have to care about their lives being lost.
Also,
it's such willful, immoral ignorance.
Palestinians and innocents are not vague words.
Yeah,
and I
he
think
said they
there's
were
just a
vague
responsibility
words.
as a journalist to point that out.
What does
a
Palestinian mean?
Right.
Who can say?
Which is the conversation, which is what started all of this. All right. So
innocent.
right.
What does that mean? And I would almost be okay with Pete Hesgeth saying things like that if I was not, as a lib and as an atheist, continually told that this is the area of the country that he represents that are the moral ones. They have the code given to them from on high to all morality, and we are the heathens. And when he hears that children have died, meh, who really cares about that? And also, by the way, one of the reasons I care about this, it's Fox, it doesn't matter all that much, except that they are the informal advisors to the president. Pete Hesgeth was rumored to potentially be the next head of the VA. That guy, the meh guy, might have headed up the largest workforce of a federal agency in our country.
Also, that conversation, that entire segment was based upon a school having a moment of silence for innocent victims of this tragedy. There was a 10-month-old baby that died in all of this, and parents were upset about that. Like, you know, I don't want my kids learning about this in school, talking about this in school. School is where you're educated. And a lot of adults don't know enough about this and don't know enough about the facts of this and how it all started now. So I think it is positive that a teacher, school administrators are educating children about what happens outside of their own backyard.
I'm shocked that they were gonna do it at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
and just it's irresponsible to conflate it and say like these kids were having a moment of silence for terrorists.
Yeah,
there's nuance. It's not
crazy.
what was happening.
Yeah.
But there was a baby that lost their life, and that conversation quickly went to who is to blame. Let's say, okay, you're right, boom, the terrorist is to blame. This wasn't a conversation about who's to blame. This was a conversation about innocent people losing their lives and being educated about that.
Yeah.
That's it. The story had nothing to do with who was to blame.
Yeah, it's not about who's to blame. Still, the soldiers were to blame. Like the idea that, well, I mean, they were told by Hamas to go there. First of all, that's not actually what happened. It was a major activist event. So, okay, fine.
And am I confused about, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of people are like, well, what if this were the other way around and they just went into, am I confused about what a settlement is?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they move in, they tear down the buildings, they throw the people out, and then they build there. Yes.
Because okay, so
well,
then
they're not massacred generally. Exactly.
If we're just talking about like what happens if people from the other side, it
happens constantly. It happens all the time.
Constantly.
But in this particular case, so they're told to go there. Okay, so you have your barrier and you have your soldiers and you have your snipers, and they've literally leveled out areas of sand that you could hide behind. And so then the mothers and the grandmothers come and they're shouting obscenities and they're throwing rocks from here to here. Okay, so they've been told by Hamas, let's accept that.
Okay.
So you snipe them from 200 yards away? What were they gonna do? Was the grandmother gonna tear down the fence? Was she gonna kill the soldiers with her bare hands? The idea that if they were sent by Hamas, we no longer have to have any concern for their inherent human dignity, that is insanity. And so much of right-wing rhetoric seems to be getting people to think of other people as animals, that if you see them slaughtered, you do not have to care about it anymore. And we're not supposed to be worried about that. Many people will say that focusing on the actions of the most powerful politicians and media figures on the right is a distraction. I would say a distraction from what? This dehumanizing movement that is taking over media and politics in our country should be the conversation, because that is how countries fall. There are far too many people who have never once done any reading about the failure of democracy, the fall of democracies, the falls into fascism, who are saying all of this isn't a concern, we shouldn't be thinking about it so much. It's extremely scary to me.
It should be scary.
Anyway, with that said,
the argument of kind of protecting your land, protecting your border with murder against unarmed people is scary, because of that we are this close to that argument here.
Yeah, it's just too much. The people with the guns are always right. The people being shot are always wrong. Don't think about it any more than that. And we see it there, we see it here. If they've got uniforms on, they're probably right to murder whoever they want.